What are some of the issues that you've run into with multi-staging?
I haven't tried. I mean, it's not like I've failed. It's I haven't knocked off all the other things on the list to get to that point. One interesting thing I may build this year is a parallel stage test vehicle where, the vehicle actually will look like a bundle of straws, like soda straws. Three inners, 9 outers, 27 outside of that, multiple layer cake staging. And I may actually build something that looks like that this year, and we'll see how it goes.
Interesting. Well, what other sort of projects do you have on the horizon that you think would be pretty interesting?
Well, I've currently got I have 4 projects running. Project 1 is running my existing business. I'm actually adjusting that a little bit to try to, towards the end of the year, go from that being a full-time gig to a less than full-time gig so I can spend more time playing with rockets and other cool things. I'm going to take my little controller board with autopilot-like features and compete in the Spark Fun Autonomous Vehicle competition with it. And if that goes well, I may actually market this as an autopilot for autonomous vehicles through my existing company. I've got the rocket guidance thing. I have the business plan for the nanosat launcher that I'm working towards possibly getting funding for. And I had, earlier this year, about 3 months ago, I had someone come to me and ask me to evaluate the technical correctness, feasibility, reality, whatever you want to call it, of a company that was doing low energy nuclear reactions, also known as cold fusion. And I thought that, okay, I thought cold fusion had been discredited 20 years ago and was all bunk, and okay, but this is a fairly serious guy who's asking me to do him a favor, and I'll trade favors. I'll go do a serious job of researching it and tell him what I thought. Well, I did a serious job of researching it, and I now have a low energy nuclear reactor experiment in my garage. So it's sort of an interesting example of pathological science, in that the science community couldn't accept the results that they were seeing, and so rather than doing science, which is to explain the anomalous results and work on the anomalous results, they attacked the anomalous results presenters as being bad scientists, which I don't think was valid and shows that politics affects all aspects of human endeavor. And so anyone in the traditional science environment who's worked on cold fusion or lower energy nuclear reactions is basically committing career suicide, and in that realm, progress has been slow. I'm thoroughly convinced there is some real effect there. Probability of me saying there's a real effect there not currently understood by regular physics is probably 0.9, meaning I'd say 90% sure of that. I would even say I'm 70% sure that there will be a useful energy source there someday. Clearly is not one yet today, but it could be, tomorrow someone could announce, here, I've got this steam plant running, I've resolved it all. There are a bunch of people who are secretively, scheming away in their areas. So that's another project I'm working on. And my concept there, the Wright brothers didn't build an airplane. The Wright brothers built a wind tunnel. And there are a bunch of low energy nuclear reactor people who are trying to build one of two things. They're trying to build a functioning reactor to sell commercial energy with, or they're trying to build the perfect calorimeter to convince their friends in the physics department that they aren't quacks. And I would say 99% of the people working in the space are in one of those two camps. They're either trying to jump right to a commercial product, which they can't really make, or they're trying to convince their physics buddies that they aren't crazy. No one is trying to make the system more replicable, meaning 95% of the experiments fail. The analogy I like is, hey, some guy told me that if I hook a bent piece of wire on the end of a string and dip it in water, I can pull out food. And I have been standing in my bathroom using my bucket of distilled water, and I have been dipping my string in it for months, and I have not yet seen any food. He must be lying. It just means we don't understand where the fish are. We don't understand why they bite, or why they bite sometimes and not others, and why sometimes you stick the string in the water and nothing comes out, and other times you get food. So what I'm trying to do is develop an experiment that searches for the reaction quickly as opposed to the perfect calorimetry or the power production reaction. So I'm trying to build a wind tunnel. Call it a low energy nuclear wind tunnel. It's a reactor with a window and an infrared pyrometer. I can look at my sample. I can see if it's getting hotter than ambient. I can heat it up. I can fill it with hydrogen or deuterium. And the entire structure is 50 ohms RF, so I can hit it with DC to 10 gigahertz sort of RF signals. I have a couple spark gap switches. I can hit it with voltage impulses. I can monitor what's there. I can basically see if I get a reaction. And the goal is to, rather than run an experiment that takes 8 weeks to prove the calorimity's right, is to try 20 things, 50 things, 100 things a day. I'm working with some people who do some nanomaterials to make me some interesting nanomaterial patterns. I'm going to try some powders and some wires and some cast bars, and I've got a whole bunch of materials to try. I'm going to try a whole bunch of different stimulation schemes. We'll see. Wow. It's at some level it's a project I can do in my garage without needing a bigger space. My rockets are kind of outgrowing my space. I'm not quite ready to go out and rent a bigger building. So it's something to do for 6 months, and of all the stuff I've done, if I were actually successful, I would put the probability of that at very low, like 0.1% or 0.01%, but it's one of those risk-reward trade-offs. I don't have an academic reputation to protect. I'm not trying to be a career PhD, so committing academic suicide is a meaningless statement for me. I have the resources to do it, and if it actually worked, it would change the world more than just about any other invention yet done.